you are witnessing something unprecedented. As we stand on the threshold of 2026, empaths across the globe are experiencing a collective awakening. The childhood story that kept them small, that kept them safe, that kept them serving everyone but themselves is collapsing. And no matter how desperately they try to hold on to it, that old timeline cannot follow them into what comes next. Carl Jung's work illuminates this exact moment. In his framework of individuation, we see what could be called the Great Separation, the point where the empath's survival mechanism transforms from protective shield into psychological prison, the moment when staying the same becomes more painful than the terror of change itself. If you are an empath, you already feel this happening inside you. The restlessness, the exhaustion, the growing awareness that something fundamental is shifting. Your nervous system is rewiring itself. Your consciousness is expanding beyond the boundaries that once felt like home. And the person you have been your entire life is quietly beginning to die. Why 2026? What makes this threshold different from any other year? Because 2026 represents something far deeper than a calendar date. It symbolizes the completion of a developmental cycle, the end of an energetic contract you signed before you even had words, the expiration date of the story you were handed in childhood, the story that taught you your value existed only in what you could do for others. Let me tell you exactly what that story was, and why it is dying right now, whether you are ready or not. You were not born to be the guardian of other people's emotions. But somewhere in your early years, you received a very different message. Your family system was drowning. Maybe it was addiction. Maybe it was violence. Maybe it was the silent suffocation of unspoken pain. Whatever the specific dysfunction, the system needed someone to absorb the shockwaves, someone to carry what no one else could hold, someone to translate chaos into calm. That someone was you. Not because you chose it, but because your nervous system was wired for sensitivity. You could read the room before you could read words. You knew when danger was coming before it arrived. You felt everyone's feelings as if they were your own. This was not a gift at first. It was a survival strategy. If you could sense the emotional weather, you could predict the storms. If you could manage everyone else's pain, maybe you could keep yourself safe. So, you became the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who apologized for existing, the one who carried burdens that did not belong to you, the one who learned to disappear your own needs so completely that even you forgot you had them. You projected your entire sense of value onto your utility to others. Jung would say you gave away your psychological center. You traded your authentic self for the role of emotional shock absorber. And for years, maybe decades, this worked. It kept you connected. It gave you purpose. It made you feel needed. But here is what you are discovering now. That childhood story has an expiration date, and we have reached it. The world is getting louder, more chaotic, more demanding. The emotional noise is increasing exponentially, and your old coping mechanisms, the ones that saved you as a child, are starting to fail. Fawning does not work anymore. Absorbing does not work anymore. Making yourself small does not work anymore. Not because you are failing, but because the strategy itself has reached its evolutionary limit. This is not your weakness. This is your system telling you that the person you had to become to survive childhood cannot survive what is coming next. Jung's concept of the shadow emergence explains this phenomenon. The moment when your persona, the mask you have worn so perfectly for so long, no longer fits the container of who you are becoming. Your shadow is not the darkness you fear. Your shadow is every part of yourself you had to reject to play the role of the nice helper. Your anger, your boundaries, your selfishness, your right to take up space, your permission to disappoint people, your capacity to say no without explanation. All the parts of you that the childhood story labeled as bad, or dangerous, or unacceptable. Those parts are rising now, and they will not be silenced anymore. Think about what has been happening to you recently. The moments when you feel rage bubbling up from nowhere. The sudden inability to tolerate behavior you have accepted for years. The strange new voice in your head that says no when you have always said yes. This is not you becoming bitter or hard. This is your authentic self breaking through the conditioning. This is the shadow integration that Jung described as essential for psychological wholeness. The neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited decades ago. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. The neural pathways that kept you locked in unconscious absorption are weakening. New pathways are forming. Pathways of conscious observation. You are moving from a state where you automatically take on everyone's emotional content to a state where you can witness it without becoming it. This is not about becoming cold or disconnected. This is about developing the capacity to see everything while absorbing nothing. Research on neuroplasticity shows that empaths who undergo this transformation demonstrate increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for conscious decision-making, while showing decreased reactivity in the amygdala, the fear center. Your brain is literally upgrading from survival mode to sovereignty mode, from reactive to responsive, from victim to architect. But this transition is terrifying because it feels like betrayal. It feels like you are becoming the very thing you were taught to fear. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The Alchemist's Path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com. Selfish, unavailable, cold, the people around. You will reinforce this fear. They will tell you that you have changed, that you are not yourself, that you are being difficult or distant or harsh, and part of you will want to believe them. Part of you will want to shrink back into the familiar prison of the childhood story. Here is what they are really saying when they accuse you of changing. They are saying that you are no longer predictable, you are no longer controllable, you are no longer willing to abandon yourself for their comfort. And this terrifies them, not because you have become dangerous, but because your transformation holds up a mirror to their own stagnation. Your growth highlights their refusal to grow. Your boundaries expose their entitlement. Your sovereignty challenges their dependence. But 2026 will not let you retreat, because 2026 is not just a date. It is a vibrational threshold, a frequency that the old version of you cannot match. The childhood story operates at the frequency of fear, obligation, and guilt. The future you operates at the frequency of sovereignty, clarity, and conscious choice. These 2 frequencies cannot coexist. One must die for the other to live. Think of it like this. You cannot carry water in a container with holes in it. And your old self, the people pleaser, the fixer, the emotional sponge, is full of holes. Holes created by lack of boundaries. Holes worn by years of self-abandonment. Holes carved by the belief that your worth depended on your usefulness. That container cannot hold the power that is trying to pour into you now. So it must be shattered completely. And a new container must be built. One without holes. One with walls that are firm but not rigid. One that can hold your energy instead of leaking it out to everyone around you. This is the rising, the great separation. The moment when the empath must choose between the familiar suffering of self-abandonment and the unfamiliar terror of self-possession. You are standing at the edge of what Jung's work describes as a necessary psychological death, what we might call the severing, the death that precedes rebirth. This is the moment every spiritual tradition warns about and celebrates simultaneously. The dark night of the soul, the crossing of the threshold, the point of no return. Here is what the severing looks like. You will have a moment, Maybe you have already had it, where you suddenly see the entire pattern with brutal clarity. You will see how you have been used, how you have allowed yourself to be used, how the people you have served have become dependent on your self-sacrifice, how your kindness has enabled their dysfunction, how your empathy has been weaponized against you. This seeing will be devastating, not because the people in your life are evil, but because you will realize that you taught them how to treat you. You trained them to take without giving, to demand without reciprocating, to lean without supporting, and the role you played in your own diminishment will be impossible to deny. You will remember all the times you said yes when you meant no, all the times you absorbed someone's anger to keep the peace, all the times you made yourself smaller so they could feel bigger, all the times you apologized for having needs, all the times you carried burdens that were never yours to carry, and you will feel the weight of every single one of those moments crushing down on you at once. The temptation will be to fall into rage or victimhood, to blame everyone who has taken advantage of your sensitivity. But the severing requires something more difficult than blame. It requires radical responsibility. You must look directly at the truth Jung spent his life trying to help people see. You chose this, not consciously, not maliciously, but you chose it nonetheless. You chose to be the martyr because it felt safer than being sovereign. Why did it feel safer? Because being the helper meant you were needed. Being needed felt like being loved. And being loved, even in this distorted, conditional way, felt better than risking rejection. So you made a deal with yourself. You would give everything. You would be everything. You would carry everything. And in exchange, people would keep you around. They would need you. And you would never have to face the terror of being abandoned. But that deal has expired, because you are starting to see that being needed is not the same as being valued. Being useful is not the same as being loved. And a connection built on your self-sacrifice is not actually a connection at all. It is a transaction. And you are tired of being currency in someone else's economy. And now you must choose differently. You must do the thing that feels like the ultimate betrayal. You must disappoint people to save yourself. You must let them be angry. Let them be confused. Let them accuse you of changing. Let them tell you that you are not the person they thought you were, because they are right. You are not that person anymore. That person is dying, and you cannot resuscitate them no matter how much guilt you feel about letting them go. This is the terror of the severing. It feels like you are killing the only version of yourself that has ever been loved. But here is the truth Jung understood. That version of you was never actually loved. That version was needed, and need is not love. Need is dependence, and dependence is a cage. Real love does not require you to abandon yourself. Real love does not punish you for having boundaries. Real love does not guilt you for changing. Real love celebrates your growth, even when that growth makes the relationship uncomfortable. Real love adapts. Real love evolves. Real love does not demand that you stay small so that someone else can remain comfortable. The integrated empath emerges on the other side of this severing. This is not a new you. This is the original you. The you that existed before the childhood story taught you to hide. The integrated empath still sees everything. The pattern recognition remains. The sensitivity remains. The capacity for deep connection remains. But the compulsion to fix, to save, to absorb is gone. You become a master of your gift instead of a victim of it. You can walk into a room and feel the entire emotional atmosphere. You can read people with supernatural accuracy. You can sense what is hidden, what is repressed, what is about to explode. But you do not take it on. You observe it. You acknowledge it. And then you choose consciously and deliberately whether or not to engage. Imagine what this looks like in practice. Someone comes to you with their crisis. The old you would have dropped everything, absorbed their panic, made their emergency your emergency, sacrificed your peace to restore theirs. The integrated you does something different. You listen, you acknowledge their pain, you offer presence without promises, and then you ask yourself a question that would have been unthinkable before. Is this mine to carry? And if the answer is no, you let it go. You let them feel their feelings. You let them solve their problems. You let them be responsible for their own life, and you remain centered in yours. This is the power Jung called conscious participation. You are no longer unconsciously merged with everyone around you. You have boundaries that are not walls. You have empathy that is not enmeshment. You have compassion that does not require your self-destruction. You can be deeply present with someone's pain without making it your responsibility to fix it. The people who are supposed to be in your life will understand this evolution. They will feel safer with you, not less safe, because you are no longer performing empathy to avoid rejection. You are embodying authentic care from a place of wholeness. The people who cannot handle this version of you will leave, and you must let them, because they were never in relationship with you. They were in relationship with what you could do for them. Watch what happens when you stop over-functioning. The people who truly care about you will adjust. They will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your honesty. They will meet you in the new space you are creating. But the people who were using you will rage. They will guilt. They will manipulate. They will try every tactic they have ever used to pull you back into the old dynamic. And this is how you will know who was real and who was extractive. 2026 is asking you to become the architect of your own timeline, to stop waiting for permission, to stop apologizing for evolving, to stop shrinking so that others can remain comfortable in their unconsciousness. The childhood story cannot follow you into this new frequency because it was built on a foundation of self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is the one thing you can no longer afford. You are not leaving people behind. You are leaving a version of yourself behind, the version that believed love had to hurt. That connection required sacrifice. That being good meant being gone. That version served its purpose. It kept you alive when you were small and powerless. But you are not small anymore, and you are not powerless. And the power you are stepping into now is not the power to control or dominate. It is the power to choose yourself without guilt. Every person who has walked the path of true individuation has faced this moment, the moment where the old self must die and the new self feels too foreign to trust. Jung went through it himself. He documented what he called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period of profound psychological crisis that brought him to the edge of what he could bear. But he came through it transformed, not because he became someone different, but because he finally became fully himself. During that period, Jung experienced visions, voices, and psychological phenomena that would have destroyed someone without his understanding of the psyche. He described feeling pulled apart by forces larger than his conscious mind could control. He questioned his sanity. He wondered if he would survive. But he kept going. He kept documenting. He kept engaging with the unconscious material that was rising. And what he discovered on the other side became the foundation for everything we now understand about psychological transformation. This is your confrontation, your transformation, your becoming, and it is happening whether you resist it or surrender to it. The only question is whether you will fight the process and make it more painful than it needs to be, or whether you will trust that what is dying needed to die. If you are leaving the old story behind, if you feel the rising happening in your bones, if you recognize yourself in these words, then you are exactly where you need to be. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself. For the first time in your life, you are choosing yourself, and that choice is sacred. The world needs integrated empaths, not martyrs, not fixers, not people pleasers who have lost themselves in the service of others. The world needs people who can feel everything, see everything, and still maintain their center. People who can hold space without collapsing into it. People who can offer genuine care without sacrificing their own well-being. That is who you are becoming. And the journey, as terrifying as it is the most important work you will ever do. You are rising. The childhood story is falling away. And 2026 will not wait. The threshold is here. The choice is yours. Will you cross it? Will you let the old version die? Will you step into the sovereign, integrated, powerful version of yourself that has been waiting your entire life to emerge? If you are ready, if you feel this shift happening, comment below, "I am rising." Let your declaration be witnessed. Let it be real. And if this message resonated with you, share it with another empath who needs to hear it. Like this video. Subscribe for more content that speaks to the soul of who you are becoming. Time G.6. Because this is not the end of your empathy. This is the beginning of your power. And the world has been waiting for you to remember who you actually are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to evolve. Thank you for choosing yourself. In the Alchemist's Path, perception training for empaths, you'll turn overwhelm into wisdom with practical drills, Jung-inspired boundaries, and step-by-step perception training. This guide includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8.5 by 11 downloadable ebook, in stock now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly. Get the Alchemist's Path at thesurrealmind.com.